they're supposed to talk about the games, the players, not their lives away from the field like that. Totally uninformed comment. I would like to ask him, if I could, what does down for the cause actually mean? Because I think in the 60s and the 50s, there was a much clearer cause that could be identified and quantified. Now, what I need in terms of racial struggle is not what you need, it's not what she needs. Like, we don't need, there's not one sort of cause that we're all down for. You know, I reject this notion that not marrying within the community is supposed to be an insult to the community. You know, I don't like the notion, I don't like the Republican philosophy, but I don't say that a black person who is a Republican is not black. They fully have the right to choose that. I disagree with their ideas, but I don't think you have left the community because you are choosing to be a Republican. So, you know, I found what he had to say while we discussed it. Look, my whole book was about you can choose whatever way you want to be black, because there is not a narrow dogmatic vision of how to be black. There's not one way of being black. There's an infinite number of ways of being black. Each one of us can use blackness to be whoever we want to be in terms of our identity choices. The only thing that links all of us as black people is that we have and will experience racism in our lives. That's it. Everything else, there's no commonality that links every single black person in America. So this idea that there's a cause or there's one way to be black, and if you are a Republican, you're not really black, or if you're married to a white woman, you're not really black, it's just really ridiculous. One of the interesting things about the whole Rob Parker moment was almost everybody came out and said, what an idiot. All the blogs, most of the comments on the blogs, most of the tweets I saw were just like, wow, what a moron. And he was suspended and then fired. So, you know, and actually, you know, everybody runs the tape of Rob saying what he said, but immediately after he said that, Stephen A. Smith came in and said, like, that was crazy. Not comfortable with what you said at all. So, I mean, his comments were rejected even within the scope of that show, within that moment. So, I mean, you know, he was pretty well shot down. But I just saw either today or yesterday that he's now writing for a website that ESPN is invested in. So, in some way, he's snuck back into what they call the mothership. But, you know, he's lost his television platform, which I don't root for anybody or hope for anybody to lose their job or lose their television platform because I disagree with them, but that's what happened to him.
All right, next question. What is your opinion on Dr. Cornel West's negative views about President Obama?
Thank you for that. What's your name?
Veronica.
Veronica. I've known Cornel West a long time. He's an incredibly important thinker, and in a lot of ways, he's a beautiful man. And he takes this sort of Christian ethic to a place that is unusual in my experience, in terms of loving people and the sort of the love that you experience when you get around like really truly religious people that just sort of emanates out. It's like, wow, I feel so peaceful just being around you. I mean, he really gives that off. But this Obama crusade has been disgusting. It's been off-key. It's been sort of gross, and it's been very personal. I want you to be this way. Actually, I want to be your friend. I want to be hanging out in the White House with you, and I don't get to do that. So I'm mad at you. You don't support poverty. I don't get to hang out in the White House with you. You know, it's not an effective way of going about a reasonable critique, and it has really damaged Cornell in that there's a lot of people who are younger than me, don't remember when, say, Race Matters came out, and everybody was reading it and blown away by it, and he would show up to places and we'd sit like groupies, wow, you're so brilliant, you're synthesizing Curtis Mayfield and Plato and Nina Simone alone, and you know, I mean, like Socrates, and you know, and we can talk about, you know, soulful things and Nietzsche in these really complicated ways and still be black with it, and then, you know, and he has lost his sort of street cred, if you have street cred for academics. You know, because there's a lot of people, a lot of younger black people who are like, you know, they sort of spit when they hear his name, and they, you know, his name has sort of become sort of mud, which is unfortunate, because he is a very valuable player in the intellectual life of America, not just black America, but America, and he has cost himself that in nominating himself to be, you know, Obama's #1 hater. You know, and not that there is not valuable critiques of Obama's policies, but the way he's going about it is not right. Sort of like, you know, my kids, I got 2 little kids, and you know, they come running in the morning all screaming about, like, I want breakfast. It's like, that's not the way to ask. You can ask for it next. I do think that the gay rights movement is a civil rights movement. And I know a lot of black people get very offended by that because they want to have this sort of monopoly on the concept of civil rights. And, you know, they say things like, well, you know, they can hide it, and we can hide it, and they weren't lynched, and we had it worse, and they weren't slaves, and all that's true, but it's not the oppression Olympics. It's not a competition between who had it worse, you know? And I mean, you think about somebody like Matthew Shepard, some of them do get lynched, you know? But I mean, you know, they are, gay Americans are legally prohibited from doing things that they want to do, from the pursuit of happiness and liberty and life. And there's no other group that I can think of that has actual laws prohibiting them from doing things that they want to do. And when I look at the battle around marriage equality, we're really talking about a sort of romantic segregation, right? It's saying that when John and Jim want to get married in most states, they can't, right? And that says that their relationship is lesser. So that means their love is lesser, and ultimately their humanity is lesser, right? Forgetting all the other things, the practical things, that they can't visit each other in a hospital, and they can't share, you know, their life in sort of, you know, some official ways, and the government says, well, you know, we don't recognize your marriage, so when your partner dies, you owe a state tax, but, you know, when your partner dies, because you're a heterosexual couple, then you get to share, like, it's ridiculous, right? And the Supreme Court is taking up the Defense Marriage Act this summer, and I'm almost certain that it will knock it down, because several other courts have already said it's unconstitutional. Seems nearly impossible that the Supreme Court will find it constitutional. But, you know, I've seen in my life the way that marriage changes the way that people around you see you, right? Especially for a man. Like, wow, like, you committed. Like, you're in a family. Like, you're down for, like, one woman. Like, we like you. You know, we're glad that you're out there. And to say to gay Americans, you can't get married, you can't form a family, is this very sort of deep rejection of them as human beings. And, you know, I'm not comfortable with that. And I don't think we as Americans should be comfortable with this de jure segregation at the altar. Or up until the 60s. So I think that the impact of slavery led black people into the Republican Party. I think with the New Deal, the Democrats started to peel away black people, right? And then when you had this significant break in the 60s, right, the party totally changed. I mean, the party that freed the slaves is not the party, the Republican Party we have now, right? It's entirely different. And the party that emerged after 1964, they started dealing with Southern strategy. You know, Nixon declares the war on drugs. Reagan makes it even worse, and we're dealing with the constant demonization of black people over and over, that is a big reason why black people are pushed away from the Republican Party, feeling the Republican Party hostile toward them. I mean, starting from the rejection of the Civil Rights Act is a large part of the conversation. If the Republican Party was the same as Lincoln's party that freed the slaves, then we'd still be with them, but it's not. It's entirely different. So, we're talking about two entirely different parties. All right. And shot in New York.
But I'm just saying, what I'm saying is...
Isn't that amazing? I'm not worried about getting shot.
But I'm originally from New York, okay? And I know people who have been shot in New York, okay? You may not be worried because you probably have people who are surrounding you.
I have nobody surrounding me.
You say that, I don't know that, okay? But here's the thing. Who's to say that I can only have 5 rounds, 7 rounds in my gun? If I want to have 15, I was pulled over not too long ago with 15 rounds and I didn't have a problem.
Right, because it's legal. That's why you didn't have a problem. You don't. I mean, you just say, I should.
Why does this go on exactly?